These are books you need to read this summer. As an avid reader, I love summer break because it means I get to read a bit more. And if you are in need of some good summer book recs, I compiled a list of books that either take place in summer or they give a warm, summery vibe. And I'm going to share them with you today. If you haven't noticed, I am in a new location. This is the sneak peek that you're going to get for now of my new book room. I have a lot of content coming of the whole renovation, decorating process, so stay tuned for that. But for now, this is the only glimpse you're gonna see, and it is my favorite part of the room, so consider yourself lucky. Let's get right into it. I'm gonna pull down the books now. I have a huge stack of books in front of me. I'm not really gonna go into specific order, but I hope you can find something you want to read. When it comes to book recommendations, if I don't know what to recommend someone, I almost always recommend a Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I have two of hers in this stack, but this one is Malibu Rising. And the thing about her books is they read like you're watching a movie. And that's one of my favorite things about her writing style. I plan to do a whole video on the reading order for her books, and not that you have to read it in a specific order. I would recommend reading this one over the summer because, I mean, look at the cover. Kind of self-explanatory, but it is about a family of celebrities. There's a Malibu fire that takes down their entire house, and it flashes back in time to the events that led up to that fire, which is this massive party full of celebrities. Super interesting. My favorite historical fiction author. There's a bit of romance in it, but this is a great one to pick up this summer if you haven't read it yet. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is a romance novel with probably the most unique plot that I've ever heard. It has a bit of fantasy in it, but don't let that discourage you because it doesn't really ever get into the fantasy system and why it is the way it is. Very easy to understand and read. Clementine inherits this apartment from her late aunt, and for whatever reason, that specific apartment is able to bend time, and it flashes back and forth between 7 years in the past, 7 years in the future. It is a romance, so I'll leave it at that, but this is a really fast one that you can fly through. I thought it was so cute, and I don't know if this is actually becoming a movie, but it would be a great movie. I know when we think of mystery and thriller books, we typically think of the fall, but one I would recommend you pick up in the summer is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. She is my favorite mystery author. I read this one last year when it came out in April, and I had such a fun time. It didn't feel too fall mystery to me. If you want a book that's going to make you want to keep reading and you forget all of your other responsibilities, this is a great one for that. It also reads like a movie. It's about this girl whose mom disappeared when she was very, very little. Her family is approached by a Netflix type documentary to do a true crime documentary on her mom's case, and in the midst of filming, her mom, Rachel Price, reappears. And it's a whole mystery of why did she reappear and why now? It will keep you guessing until the very end. Holly Jackson is the queen of plot twists. If you want a good mystery, because I know I crave that during the summertime, this is a great one for it. I love this book so much. Going back to another romance, I have an Emily Henry favorite. I loved People We Meet on Vacation, where every summer this girl and her best friend go on vacation together, but they had this huge falling out in the past, and now in present time she invites him back to vacation with her after having that shift in their relationship. The cover itself obviously is very summer. This would be a great one to bring on the beach or lay by the pool and read, or even on the plane if you're going on summer vacation, because Emily Henry is a very quick read, but something I really appreciate about her is that there's always some sort of deeper meaning and message behind her books. And I love this one, and there actually is a movie coming out. I don't know when, I just know that they're filming right now, and Tom Blythe is the main character of it. I mean the main guy, but I am really excited for it, and if you want to read it before the movie comes out, which I highly recommend, now is your time to do it because it's summertime and this book is perfect for that. One of my very, very, very favorite books of all time is a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, my second and final one I have on this list, and that is Daisy Jones in the Six. If you have not read this, you are completely missing out. It is about a Fleetwood Mac inspired band in the 70s, about their rise and fall of fame. It reads like a Netflix documentary because it's all dialogue, it's all interviews. I think I read this in one sitting the first time I read it. It gives that warm 1970s summer Los Angeles Hollywood vibe. I absolutely adore this book. The show is also great, so you could binge this and then binge the TV show. They did a great job on that adaptation, and I hope if you can pick anything up on this list, I hope you pick up this one. My second and last Emily Henry book I have on this list is Happy Place. Although I liked People We Meet on Vacation a bit more than this one was still great. It is about this couple who had been dating forever and they broke up but did not tell their friend group about it. And they go back to their happy place, the summer house, for the final time, and they're all invited there and they have to pretend they're still together because they don't want to ruin the trip for their friends. Again, deeper meaning in this one. It's super fun. I love the friend group. Almost anyone could really enjoy this because I love Emily Henry and she is very popular for a reason. This is a more recent read that I didn't pick up for a long time, and I don't know why, because it might just be my favorite romance book I have ever read. I read it in a couple sittings, and that is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. It is childhood friends to lovers. It has dual timelines of when the couple was younger and when they first met, because they met because, oh my gosh, how many times am I gonna say because? These two kids met because their houses, or his house and her summer weekend cabin in California, were next door neighbors. So they grew up together. I cried, I laughed, fell in love with these characters. Again, it might just be my favorite romance book of all time, and it gives great summer vibes. I promise these are not all romances. It's just in the order I grabbed them. I'm sure you've seen this book around, but again, it is popular for a reason, and that is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Again, Abby is popular for a reason, and I also appreciate from her is that she has a deeper meaning and message in her books as well. I mean, look at this cover. One of my favorite covers of all time. And the book inside is just as good as the cover. It takes place in Minnesota, which is the area I grew up in, makes it extra fun to read. Midwest summers are just elite. If you know, you know. Again, it had me laughing, crying, all of the emotions. Can't wait till I can forget about it a little bit more so I can reread it again. I have gotten so many people on this book, and I want to get you on it too because it is worth the hype. Now, moving back to mystery thriller department and a little bit of historical fiction pinched in there. The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. You would look at this and you'd probably think this is a summer romance. It is quite the opposite, but it does give summer vibes because it takes place over the summer in a villa in Italy. I love the frenemies aspect of it, and then they're trying to figure out something that happened in the 1970s, again with a more rock type band that was staying at the villa, and there were some bad things that happened there. So again, dual timelines of what's happening, but it makes it very interesting and it keeps you on your toes. Another quick read. Now, I'm going to recommend a true crime book if that is something you're into. A lot of us have heard of Ted Bundy, but this book, The Phantom Prince, I actually read this several years ago. For some reason, the desk jacket is on backwards. Anyways, if you were wondering who Elizabeth Kendall is, that is the girlfriend, or I guess ex-girlfriend of Ted Bundy. She was the one dating him during his serial killer days. She gives her perspective of what it was like to be dating a serial killer and finding that out, and she's actually the one that tipped off the police onto him. It's very interesting. I'd like to reread it someday, but it really shows you a glimpse of what it's like for the family of serial killers and other criminals. And obviously Ted Bundy is a disgusting human being, which is why I appreciated hearing her perspective of what that was like, because how many people can say they were put in a position like that? Now on to a more lighthearted read. If you are craving a fantasy book this summer, I have a recommendation for you. I feel like a lot of fantasy books people tend to read during the colder months, which I understand, but sometimes it is fun to read a fantasy book during the summertime, and that is why I would recommend the Powerless trilogy. It's a completed trilogy now, so you could binge all of the books if you wanted to. It's a super digestible fantasy book, a dystopian fantasy world where everyone has powers, and if you don't have powers, you're exiled or executed. And our main character does not have any powers. She is powerless. She gets thrown into the trials that the king hosts every year, and she has to fake having powers to stay alive. And there is romance in there. There are Prince brothers in there with a little love triangle action. I I love these characters. I love the story. I love the setting. I love the world. I enjoyed this trilogy so much and would recommend, if you want to dive into a new fantasy series this summer, I would recommend it be this one because it does give summer vibes in terms of fantasy books. I only have 2 more romances to recommend. One of them is Summer in the City by Alex Astor. The sprayed edges alone make this my favorite romance book to have on my shelf. It is so cute. This book is a billionaire romance set in New York City. It is so fun. It goes throughout the entire summer. So you get to see this couple fake dating, kind of enemies to lovers. I did enjoy it enough that I would recommend it, even though it's not my favorite romance book ever. It is super fun. It feels like an early 2000s rom-com. When I read it, that was the first thing I thought about. If you want to read something a little bit cheesy, fun, lighthearted, I would definitely recommend reading this one. The final romance book I have here is a new release, again by Abby Jimenez. Say You'll Remember Me is her newest book. It came out in April. They meet, but she has to move back from Minnesota all the way back to California to take care of her mom with Alzheimer's. While they try to make their long distance relationship work, they're jumping back between the 2 states. It takes place year-round, but there are a lot of summer moments, especially in California. I loved the setting. I loved the characters. I would advise you to look up trigger warnings if that's something you feel like you need to do, because there are a lot of heavy, sad topics in this book, but I do appreciate that when it comes to romances. As I've mentioned before, it's not as good as Just for the Summer in my opinion, but if you've already read that one, here is a new release that you should pick up. Another fantasy book that I would recommend is quite a long series, but I read these first when I was in 5th grade, so I know you can do it. They're easy reads, they're fast reads, and that is the Mortal Instruments series, starting with City of Bones. It's a very easy fantasy world to understand, and it's one of those fantasy worlds that is a hidden aspect of the real world. Like, the real world still exists, so it does make it easier to understand the fantasy world because of that. It's in a world where there are shadow hunters, which are descendants of angels that are sent to kill demons and protect the humans. Our main character finds herself meeting with one. There's a lot of mystery behind why she's able to see them and no one else can. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I've reread them again and again. Super fun. They take place over the summer in New York, and there is romance in it. Very little, but there is a big romance plot that we see develop throughout the entirety of the books and between book to book. So if you're wanting something set, because if you like this first book, you're gonna like the rest of them, to hold you over throughout the entire summer and not have to think about what you want to read, I would recommend this one. I think if you put your mind to it, you could finish them throughout the whole summer, because like I said, they're very, very simple reads. Another new release, and I'm sure a lot of you have read this one already, but I need to mention it because if you haven't, you need to. The movie comes out next year. That is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the next book in the Hunger Games series. This is about Haymitch's Games, the 50th Quarter Quell. We know some, but not all, about what Haymitch's life and games were like prior to Katniss and Peeta's games, and this really dives into everything that happened. It covers heavily on propaganda, how corrupt government can be, especially when it comes to hiding the truth to the citizens. It is a heavier book. This was definitely the saddest of all of the Hunger Games books, in my opinion, as a proclaimed super fan of the Hunger Games series. Her writing is so impactful, yet simple. I would recommend you read this summer. Another dystopian book, but a very different type of dystopian book I have here, is The Long Walk by Stephen King. I read this in high school and I think about this book a lot. They don't give a ton of context. I think King purposely leaves out details to keep you wondering, but it is set in this futuristic dystopian world. A big group of guys can sign up to go on the long walk. The person that wins it wins a ton of money. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You line up in a line and you have to keep walking. If you stop walking, you get shot. Essentially, it's just the last man walking wins. And only Stephen King could write a book where it's entirely a group of people just walking the entire time and make it interesting and impactful. It doesn't explicitly say it takes place during the summer, but I kind of get summer vibes from it. I guess you could read it any time of year, but if you are craving a book kind of like that, or if you are a fan of Stephen King like I am, this is one of my favorites by him. So let me know if you pick this one up. My final book and second Stephen King book, please let me explain. I know it is long. It is the longest book I have ever read to date. I read it senior year of high school. It's probably in my top 10 of my favorite books I have ever read and books that have stuck with me for an extended period of time because I do think about this one very often. That is The Stand, and I know, I think it's 1,300 pages. Would you look at that? Only 1,150. I will warn you that the text is very small. If this is a summer where you want to tackle a dense work, I would suggest this one. There's an apocalypse, and reading this after the whole COVID-19 pandemic is insane because it is a virus like COVID-19 that wipes out the majority of the population. There's a very small portion left, and it follows multiple characters all throughout the United States who all meet up together, and it's a commentary on good and evil, and if that's inherent or if we're forced into that, or if it's the choices we make. The characters have to choose between that good and evil, and it's going to determine the fate of humanity. It is fantastic. There is a show, so if you don't want to read the book, I would recommend the show. I've watched, because there's an older version of the show and the newer version. I watched the newer version, so I can't speak to the older one, and I thought it was pretty well done. Because of how long it is, there is a ton of stuff they had to cut out, and if you are gonna read this, I would recommend reading the unabridged version, which is the complete and uncut version of it. His publisher, I think, did make him cut out a ton of stuff, so there is an abridged version. If you want something shorter, apocalypse things remind me of summer for whatever reason, and I'm pretty sure this takes place. Actually, I know this takes place during the summertime. And not many people that I know have ever read this book, and I always tell everyone it's my favorite Stephen King book. I have zero regrets about reading it, despite how long it is. It is absolutely fantastic and really shows off Stephen King's talent when it comes to his writing and his mind. His mind is just insanely creative. Anyways, those are the books I would recommend you read this summer if you are in need of a recommendation. I'm so excited for the content that is coming this summer. I have a lot planned. Stay tuned for a lot of room-related videos. I post every Friday, so make sure you subscribe so you never miss a video. I'll see you guys next week.